All right, y'all. So here we are. We've had a lot of people praying for us and just showing a lot of concern and being a blessing to us. And so we just wanted to kind of break down what's been going on in our little world for the last few weeks. So this year my schedule has been pretty chaotic. I've been in and out. I come home for like a day at a time before I bail off and go someplace else. So I just come home from Montana a few weeks ago. And from there, I came home for one day and we went to Missouri for a week. My niece was graduating high school and we got to go up and spend some time with some family in Missouri. And every year we go to Missouri, the girls like to go out and try to shoot and spend some time. And so anyway, that's kind of what goes on when we go up there. We spend a lot of other time doing a lot of other stuff, but that's one of the things that the girls like to go do. From there, we were going to come home for a day or so, and then I was leading a mission trip down to some orphanages in Mexico. And I did mention that the girls went out. They like to go shoot. Well, inadvertently, a handgun got left under the seat of the pickup. And so when you go to Mexico, that's a no-no. And so as we were crossing the border to go into Mexico, they found a handgun underneath the seat. And so we've been a little vague on what we've been sharing on social media because we just didn't know what we could or couldn't share. But as of right now, it looks like things are pretty well behind us. And yeah, we're all back home and whatnot. But the gist of it is as we were crossing the border, I had a friend of mine's daughter with us, was 16. I had obviously myself and Mandy and Brooke. And as we were crossing in, and they found that handgun, and they confiscated my pickup, and they arrested me and Mandy and Brooke and put us in jail. And they were taking my 16-year-old friend's daughter from Montana. They were going to take her to a
like child services.
Yeah, child services in Mexico. And so just less than ideal from my perspective, because somebody had trusted me with their child and oversight, and here we go, you know. So anyway, we were very blessed that they allowed her to go stay at the orphanage because she had been there before. She knew the people there. We had some other friends that were traveling down with us from Alaska that she got to spend the day with, so she knew them as well. And we were just very blessed that we were allowed for her to go to the orphanage. And so anyway, myself and Mandy and Brooke, not so fortunate. We did get arrested and we went to jail in Mexico.
Yeah, I get to tell my kids that I went to jail with my parents in Mexico.
It's such a blessing to be here laughing about it, because
It was very scary.
yeah, it was gnarly. Like, it was gnarly. It was a third world jail, and I've never been to jail. I've been to a lot of jails and prisons doing jailhouse and prison ministry, but I've never been in trouble. And in as much as everybody thinks I've been in lots of trouble because I post a lot of pictures of myself on social media with a cop behind me, I get pulled over a lot, but I've never been in trouble. But we got in trouble, and so they put us in jail. They were in their own cell just next door to me, and I was in my own cell by myself. It's nasty. It's hot. There's cockroaches, spiders, ants. You don't even flush your own toilet. Your toilet is exposed, and there's people that are in the little guard shack there that watch you do your business, and they push the button to flush the toilet when you're done taking care of business. So it was very hot. It was very hot in there. There was no air conditioning. They had some fans on, which made it hard for us to visit or even communicate, because I don't hear very well to begin with, and you had to holler to communicate. But it was very much a blessing that we were in earshot of each other, that we could communicate. So we got arrested at night at, I don't know, 9 o'clock, 8:30, at 7:30 at night, something like that, as we were crossing going to the orphanages, and they put us in jail, and there you are. You're just locked up. You're literally old school cell with bars, like Barney Fife kind of jail stuff. And so in order to try to stay even sort of cool, to keep from sweating yourself to death because you're afraid to drink the water, you set up as close to that as you can and try to get that air off the fan. And I can see Brooke's feet sticking up, and she would lay on the concrete and flick her feet up just trying to get air. It was so hot.
Trying to have airflow for sure.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I do want to say that they were very, very nice to us. They did not abuse us. They did not mistreat us. They were very nice. And they even had a doctor, took us into a private room as individuals and photoed us and made sure we weren't all beat up and stuff, because apparently they get accused of a lot of things down there. I just got to say that overall, I was absolutely impressed with how they treated us. I mean,
Yeah.
for what they had to work with, because the conditions in there are pretty gnarly in hindsight. So I just came back and getting the pickup. I just got back late last night, actually early this morning, probably 12:30 this morning. But the gentleman that was a part of helping me get my pickup used to work in that same jail, and he was telling me how nice that jail is compared to all the rest of them. And so we had no earthly idea that we were, you know, in the airless B&B of the jails down there. It was the nicer of all the jails, and so we had no idea when we were living it that it was nice, because it just didn't feel that way. It was nasty.
The hardest part was there was no translators, and I don't speak Spanish, and they don't speak English.
Yeah, there was a universal language being spoken from the mannerisms and expressions on our face. They knew that we were distraught, and so I was just impressed with. Even we did have a translator when they were first booking us, and it was difficult. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life was watching them get booked, watching them get fingerprinted and mugshot, and put in a jail cell, and listening to hear that door clank shut.
That was terrible.
It was hard. It was hard as a father and a husband. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done, was watching them get locked into that cell. But the translator that was trying to explain to us what was going on that night as we were being arrested told us, this guy is mean. He's mean to everybody. He's mean to me. He's mean to everybody. He's going to be mean to you. And he was sweet as could be to us. I mean, he was very, very friendly, very nice. We couldn't communicate, you know, verbally, but everybody was very nice. So I guess if you get arrested in Mexico, if you're nice, they might be nice back. But it was there you get locked up and you're in your cell thinking, they're telling me 2 to 10 years is what I'm looking at in prison. And so I'm laying there in that cell, burning up, laying in a puddle of sweat, thinking this is very, very well could be my new reality. And it's humbling. It's humbling. And it was difficult because in as much as I don't hear well, I could hear the whimpers and whines and cries coming from the cell next door. And that was a challenge. It made it very difficult because I knew that they were broken and hurt, and I couldn't do nothing. My hands were tied. It's a scary situation because you think about if somebody would have come and taken them to go do something bad to them, I'm totally helpless. I've got steel bars between me and the rest of the world. I can't do anything. And so I would say that one of the great things that I got from this experience was being that sense of being completely dependent on someone else. I go to these orphanages with the desire to try to help those kids because they're dependent. They can't take care of themselves. They have been abandoned and they're just in a bad situation. And so it's always been my heart to try to help those kids because they can't help themselves. And I thought I understood that, but there's just another level of understanding that I've got now, that now my passion and desire to help people in that position is stronger now than ever. And even kind of kidding with somebody yesterday, they were asking me would I ever go back, and I said, man, I got to tell you that I think I would have gone back anyway. I would have been a wet back the other direction. I would have been swimming across the river to go try to help them illegally if I had to, because my heart is so heavy after experiencing that. So we're locked in there and we're stuck. Nothing we can do. And so that's what I got, was like, we're laying here with nothing. What is somebody going to help us? Is somebody doing something on our behalf, or is this our new reality? And so I'm begging them in English to try to get them out, but they can't hear me. They don't know what I'm saying. I mean, it's just noise. Surprisingly, on the border towns, very few people speak English. If you make your way on down into the interior of Mexico, you go to Monterrey, the vast majority speak it. The border towns, surprisingly, especially in the law enforcement there, you would think, but it is what it is. They don't speak English. So
I had one translator over 5 states.
For 5 states, and she came in and she translated for us for an hour or two, and that was that. So laying there thinking, I wonder if somebody's doing something on our behalf. Is this what's going on? Are they home watching Matlock now? They already forgotten about us, and you just don't know because you have no way of communicating. So you just lay there and pace and do whatever you do. And so the next day, we had a lawyer come that night and talk to us that the orphanage had arranged. They'd spent some money and got us a lawyer, and she came in and visited with us that night and said, don't sign nothing else, and as soon as I leave, they're going to try to get you to sign a bunch of stuff. And they did. Basically, as soon as she left, boy, they came and they were trying to get us to sign stuff, and no. We just told them no. We didn't know what we were doing other than telling them no. So the lawyer leaves, and then it's just they're in their cell and I'm in my cell, and make it through the night. And we could kind of look, they could probably see it better than I could. From my cell, there was just a little spot that I could look up down the hall, and up there was a window up high, and I could just see a little glimmer of daylight in there. So I could see that it was daylight, and it was, I don't know, it was relatively late in the day, I guess, before we had anybody.
They were supposed to let them come back around 10.
Yeah.
And then they didn't let them come back, so it wasn't till like 2 o'clock before we heard a word.
And time is warped in there.
Yeah, very slow.
When the Word of God talks about a day as 1,000 years and 1,000 years as a day, I kid a little bit, but man, there seems to be a whole lot more substance to that to me now. I understand it now more than I ever did, because time was absolutely warped. It just ceased to move. It just crawled. And so we finally had some people come in, and they said, okay, and there is some old school crookedry that still goes on in Mexico. And they put a bribe for $5,000 a piece on us. And so they came to us and said, okay, all you got to do is come up with $15,000, and the girls will be out, you'll be out, the girls will be free. You'll still have to come back. You'll have to stand before a judge and probably a jury and be sentenced, and 2 to 10 years, or fines or whatever, however they decided to go about it. And I can't really get real deep into who helped, but I can tell you this: I was blessed to meet a gentleman year before last. I really met him last year, and I guided him on a hunt in New Mexico. And so several people got word that this had happened, and so people were making phone calls and trying to figure out different things. Well, he called a friend, and his friend had a sister that was married to someone in Mexico that was very influential, a legal influential person. So he called that friend called the person in Mexico, and the person in Mexico jumped on it. We had it was God. It was God that put it on the heart of this gentleman to move and act and put us in a position where we were able to get out the very next day. We were in for like 28 hours, I think it was. So the next night, 10 o'clock at night, basically, we were able to get out. As our people found out that there was $15,000 bribe price on us, people started making phone calls, and within just a short amount of time, they had raised the money to pay the bribe for us. And so a good friend of mine, Roberto, down in Mexico, he was our translator. He was doing all the footwork for us, legwork for us. There was a few others. I'll tell you what, Alicia Nestler, incredible, grateful. Philip Root, so many people that just jumped in and worked their tails off for us to have freedom and liberty. There was people calling all kinds of the U.S. consulate. They were calling Congress people. They were calling people in Mexico. A lot of stuff. But our translator came in with a lawyer. They told us $15,000, and I said, I don't have it, man. I guess I'll have to go stand before a jury and just let them sentence me. And so they left, and they started making phone calls to people that they knew that I knew that knew us. And so they started calling people here in my area. And with just a short amount of time, they generated the revenue. They had the $15,000, and so they were going in to pay it. And my translator's phone rang, and he wasn't sure of the number, and he answered it, and he knew this person. This was a very big, influential person in Mexico. He didn't know this person. He knew him from TV. And so he was like starstruck that he's on the phone with this guy, and that guy says, don't pay the bribe price. I'm going to get him out of there either tonight or in the morning. And he did. Yeah. He got us out. And we didn't have to pay the $15,000, which was huge. I mean, that's $15,000. So we got out. I go back the next day to get my pickup, and they said, well, it's looking like you're probably going to need to pay the value of the pickup to get your pickup back. So basically, you got to buy the pickup back, which meant I just lost my pickup, which is a challenge, but God is bigger than a pickup, so we just sorted out. So we came back to the States. After we got out, we got confirmation that it was legal, that I could come back to the States, and I may have to go back for trial or jury or whatever. I was able to come back to the States. I went to Montana and was doing some ministry up there. All the while, my good friend Roberto was just steady working, steady doing stuff, steady going to meetings and communicating on our behalf with authorities in Mexico, trying to get my truck back and trying to work out legal fines and fees and all that stuff so that we could ultimately figure out a way to do this, maybe without me having to go back down there and get arrested. So between Roberto, doing all the stuff that he did, and then this influential individual that got on board with us, we were able to pay a couple $1,000s in fines, and I didn't have to go before a jury, and I don't have anything on my record, and so we just got wiped clean. And it's such a beautiful thing because, well, it's obvious, but I still have a lot of desire to go into third world countries and try to help anybody that's living in third world countries, but especially the kiddos, man. It's just rich to me that they're so dependent on somebody to come and help. So anyway, then I went back to try to get the pickup, and they had worked out a deal where we had to pay like $750, which it was going to be $15,000, whatever the value of the pickup was, and then they got it down to $1,500. And Roberto worked out a deal where he was able to do a bunch of paperwork and get that for half price. So we got the pickup for like $741. So I came back from Montana. I did a cannonball drive back. I drove a 24-hour drive in 27 hours and hopped on a plane and flew down there, and then started to haggle with Mexico to get the truck back, and was able to finally get it back yesterday, and then make the drive home and get here late last night. And so from our perspective, there's been so many people that have been big on that end with again, the orphanage, Big Heart Orphanage, Micah, everybody there has been huge helps for us, and they have been faithful, and they have not kicked us to the curb for being fools. And it's easy for me to think that people would just kick us to the curb. I mean, there's different ideas on how you should handle and do things. We live in an area where we kill snakes on our front porch, we kill them in our shop, we kill them in our yard. We carry guns a lot because we've got wild pigs running around. So for us, guns are just a part of our everyday. There's other places around that it's like, well, if you don't have it in a lockbox, or if you don't have this paperwork and that paperwork and all that, and if they don't understand it because their reality is different than ours. But ours is we've got guns everywhere. There's one right there. I mean, there's a bow laying here. There's a bow laying there. We live off the land. That's how we live. We don't buy meat. We kill stuff and eat it, and that's how we live. And so guns are just a normal thing for us. That being said, we take it very serious about going into Mexico. She has given me so much grief over the years. You're going to get us thrown in jail because I've always got ammo and I've always got guns and all this stuff. And so we try to be very thorough about going through the vehicles before we go down there, because we don't want to have this experience. And this one slipped by us. It got down under the seat. It was just a little SIG 365. It's black. You can't see it. And there it was. And so anyway, neither here nor there at this point. It's a part of our testimony now. But so many people did so much. So many people prayed. A lot of people have been praying without even knowing for sure why they were praying. They just knew that they needed to pray. We filled a few people in on what was going on a little quicker, a little earlier. But for the most part, all you guys that have been trying to pray and whatever you've been doing to help, people have sent money. There was a lot of money came in. We was able to send most of that back so that we didn't take money from people. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough to want to go get my pickup. For one, I had to go back across the border, which is scary because I didn't know what they were gonna do to me. And two, we had some big money people offer that if I just didn't go back and get it, they would buy us a new pickup. And that's a temptation. This truck that I've got is not necessarily ideal for the ministry plans we have for it for the next year or so, and so we're not even sure if it's going to cut the mustard. And yeah, it was pretty tempting to just be like, all right, y'all can have my truck and we'll just let these guys buy us a new one. But we wanted to be obedient to that still small voice and do what we feel like we were supposed to do, and wanted to do what was right. We didn't want to put the orphanage in a bad position where they were helping us and defending us and then us bail out on them. And so a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of people don't understand why I went back. There's a lot of people that, out of love for us, said, don't go, just don't go down there. You don't need to go down there. There's no sense in going down there. Don't go down there. And it was, I don't know, I can't even explain it. I just felt like I had to go.
I was one of those.
She was much one of those. And I understand that. There's all these voices saying this is what you should, this is what you shouldn't. There's all these voices, but as individuals, I had my perspective, that I understood my perspective, and I had this still small voice speaking to my heart and in my soul and my mind that I just felt like I needed to honor it and obey it. And I caught a little flack from certain people for that. But at the end of the day, there was a release that I got from going down there. I think that so the paranoia was destroying us. Not gonna lie, the paranoia was destroying us. We even got word, I think, from the U.S. consulate, somebody that was in authority was a little concerned that somebody above them kind of stepped in and we didn't pay our bride price. They were a little concerned that if that was cartels that was involved there, that not so much for the $15,000, but more for the principal, that we should be concerned about even being here at our home. And so when you hear that kind of stuff, all of a sudden, man, your brain just starts. She was to the point where she wasn't ever coming back here. I'm afraid to go there. She got to the same point, and thank the Lord that shortly after we came back, they went on vacation with the family down to Port Aransas. The mother-in-law, they all go down to Port Aransas every year, and I'm usually in Montana, so for the 8 or 10 days immediately after we came back from Mexico, we all left. So the house was empty. We didn't have to worry about somebody coming shanking us or whatever, which her skills, she's improved her shanking skills exponentially from just one day in the Mexican joint. I kid about that, but the Word of God is likened to a double-edged sword, and I do think that, man, there was little verses that I used, and I'm liking that to a shank, but there was little things that I spoke over myself while I was laying in that hot cell thinking this is my new reality, that when I say shanking skills, I'm talking about knowing how to apply the Word of God to your life and knowing how to use that for your advantage, for the glory of God. And there was times laying in that cell when I thought that I was fixing to spend the next 10 years of my life in a third world prison, that I had peace that was unimaginable. And it was short stints, mostly because I would let it go because I would freak out about different things. But there was an unimaginable peace at times in there that I could use the Word of God, and as the enemy would come at me, I would pull that thing out and run him through with it, and there was life inside there. So I learned and gleaned a lot. I don't necessarily want to learn and glean that way anymore if I don't have to, but glory to God, He saw fit to put people in our lives. And so while we were in there with that influential individual and with just so many different people, one of the sweetest things was having Roberto and Alice come in and visit us.
Oh, yes.
And Alice is not even allowed to do that, but she's peculiar.
She don't take no for anything.
She don't take no for an answer, and somehow, some way, she gonna make it happen. And so we were discussing it yesterday or something, that had we not got that influential guy on our team and all that stuff, I would probably still be sitting there. And then I concluded that no, she would have hooked up a unicycle to a chain and she would have ripped the walls off and I'd have got out that way. So
got your floaties blown up and ready to run.
Yeah, so
it amazes me if you look back, the people that God put in our lives that helped us.
Yeah. So it's so crazy how it all mapped out. And when you have hindsight to see the hand of God working, it's beautiful, because then you can recognize that He's been orchestrating things, putting things together for us to be prepared for this for quite some time. And so anyway, man, God is so good, and we're so thankful for all of you that have been praying for us. And we did not want to keep you guys in the dark, but at the same time, we weren't even sure when or what we could share. And so
until it was over. And now we do feel like it's over. We feel like the last I has been dotted, the last T has been crossed. Again, I've been down there for the last few days, dealing with a good bit of it, and it's pretty crazy, the sense of feeling that chapter is closed, because it was not a pretty chapter in the book to read or to live. At the same time, we belly laughed about it more than I can even explain, because it is kind of behind us, and that's the beauty of these things. And I'd like to encourage you with that, man. I don't know what you're going through, but there will be a time when you can look back and you'll be able to see that God was with you. And that's one of the hard parts of being a Christian in America, because we've been told that if you say yes to Jesus, that it's all just going to be easy and you won't go to jail in Mexico. If you go do mission trips for orphans, man, God's not going to let bad stuff happen to you. Bad is relative, and what happened to us ultimately, I believe, has grown me exponentially. I don't think I would have grown in some of the areas that I have without it. But the reality of it is it's perceived bad. And man, God did great things inside of us, but not just inside of us, He went through that with us. And that's the beauty of following Jesus,
it's not that it's all going to be blue skies and Palomino horses. It's just we don't got to go through these things alone. And like I said, there was times of absolute peace inside there that trumps any peace that I've ever experienced, because I've never been in a storm so gnarly. And so the gnarlier the storm, when you experience peace in the middle of that storm, it's supernatural. And there was something that you just couldn't deny of the supernatural presence of God in there, because there's no other way you could find peace like that when you're looking at 10 years of incarceration. There was fecal matter on the walls, fingers smeared on the walls. There was roaches. It was gnarly. It was gnarly.
Yeah, you couldn't wash your hands, brush your teeth.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
I was afraid to drink the water. I mean, everything was just gnarly in there. So.
No, remembering her get up and grab her shoe and take off running across the snow to smash a bug. It was nasty.
So. Anyway, we're so thankful for you guys that have prayed for us and encouraged us, and not even necessarily knowing why. And you know, I would sure like to have it been a lot more noble cause that I was doing. You know, that I got arrested for something, that I was preaching the gospel on the streets. But it was just something, an oversight on my part, and I don't want to downplay it and call it an oversight. It was a bonehead move on my part that it was in the truck and it happened. So anyway, we're so thankful, so grateful for you guys, and we just wanted to kind of let y'all in as to what was going on. And will I go back to Mexico? Absolutely. Do I encourage people to go? I encourage people to be led by the Spirit of God. Is it different down there? Are there some risks? There is, but for the most part, if you don't do stupid stuff, I've been down there tons of times. I've been all over the country. I've been all over the globe. I've been to Egypt and Peru and Guatemala and Mexico, and I've not had problems. Although I did have problems that time we tried to go to Canada with a gun in the truck. I forgot.
We weren't really trying to go to Canada.
Long story. I'm going to abbreviate it. The kids wanted to see Canada. We were up in Montana, and so we was driving up so they could see it, and then it just kind of funnels you into this little channel, this little valley, you can't get out. There was cars behind me, and so I pulled up, and there's this guy in this guard shack. You want to come to Canada, eh? And I was like, no, I'm just trying to do a U-turn. And he was like, you got any guns in the truck? And I was like, I do. And he was like, that's a problem. So it all worked out. We didn't get arrested in Canada, although I think I would prefer Canada over Mexico, simply because you wouldn't necessarily need air conditioning in Canada. It was hot. But anyway, thank you guys. We're going to try to post this up on the YouTube channel and let you guys have a gander at it. But while we're here, I do want to encourage you guys, if you do watch any of these, if you watch any of my hunting, fishing stuff on here, I think a lot of you guys aren't subscribed, and I would ask you to do that. I'd like to ask you to comment, to like, do all that stuff you're supposed to do on YouTube, because I am trying to grow this. I feel like there's an opportunity to touch and reach people for the glory of God on this platform, on this Ultra Motives Creation Experience. And so anyway, thank you guys so much. We're very, very blessed to have you guys in our lives. And man, we love you. Thank y'all.
Yes, don't look for my mugshot.
Yeah, by the way, we are off paper. We are off paper in Mexico. And so we have tried to find our mugshots, and they would have been terrible. Well, they don't exist because they took. So we were federal. I think this was federal that got us. They came and tried to do state mugshots, but we had to sign stuff, and we said we're not signing anything without our lawyer here. And so they didn't do them that day, and then we ended up getting sprung before much. I'm sure a lot of people are going to look for us on there. As it turns out, you're not going to find anything on us because our influential individual took care of all that stuff. But we've got witnesses, so if you want to talk to people about it and find out if it's true, I can connect you to the right people. Anyway, bless you guys. So I wanted to jump on here real quick and just thank a few other people that we know of to thank. There's a lot of people that we're not sure who all was involved in helping, but we know that there was a few key people up here at home that were in the United States that were really doing a lot. I mentioned Philip Root, but my sister-in-law Melissa, thank you. You know, you were a huge part of just giving us hope and getting us out of there and inspiring other people to be proactive and functional. And of course, Debbie River, yeah, bud, you bailed us out, buddy. It's pretty surreal having a young man like you to be able to call on and count on. And so love you, thank you, buddy. And of course, Bill King, man, you were huge, dude, like supernaturally huge. You contacted a lot of people. I know you got Scott Shook and
Frank Wynn and Daryl Hoyt, several people that got involved that were trying to help to get us out of there. So just wanted to let you guys know that we really appreciate it. I know that there's so many other people that we haven't even heard of. We don't know the names and haven't heard about the testimonies of it all yet because it's been so chaotic. But did want to mention those folks and just say thank you guys, man. You mean the world to us, and it's hard to explain how much it means whenever you feel like people really care for you like that, because it's one thing to talk about care for somebody, but you put your money where your mouth is when you start whipping out the checkbook. So, man, thank you guys. Just want you to know that we love you and appreciate you very much. So, till next time, and hopefully there's not another next time like this, we'll catch y'all, hopefully, on Hunting Video.